tell you we are recording this and we will place it on YouTube. I want to say Assalamu alaikum, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, in the name of God, the most beneficent, the most merciful. I welcome you all here. I'm really excited about today's Talim. I want to welcome you on behalf of the resident Imam, Imam Tariq El-Amin, and the Talim Committee, chaired by myself, Dr. Aisha El-Amin, with my committee members, Dr. Lionel Allen and Dr. Gloria Bashir. We today have some esteemed authors, and I am not going to take the spotlight because I'm going to allow them to do some introductions, and I'm going to hand the microphone over to Jameelah. You please, if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, Masjid Al-Taqwa, you can find this Talim and previous Talims as well as our Jum'ahs there. You also can, there's a streaming audience that will be on Facebook as well, inshallah. And so I want to turn it over to our beloved sisters to introduce the panel and then allow them to start to talk to us about becoming a Muslim author. And we know that is something that we all are in awe of, that you all are such esteemed authors. And we are really, really excited to have you talk with us today and learn a little bit about you. So Sister Jameelah, please take it over.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And thank you for having us. It's our pleasure to join this Talim today. As the other authors may not know, but this is the masjid that I attend, grew up with, had my babies there, got married, everything happened in this masjid. I love Masjid Al-Taqwa very much. I've been a long time supporter, and as you can see, they are a long time supporter of me as well. If I have a book and I say I have a book out, I don't even have to finish the sentence and people are like, where is it? How can I get it? you know, so I'm always very, very thrilled to be involved with this masjid, doing wonderful things on the south side of Chicago. Even as people are growing up, getting bigger, they're like, we are not going to leave the south side of Chicago because that's where the work needs to be done and that's where they're putting in work. So alhamdulillah, may Allah continue to bless this masjid and their efforts. So I'm going to leave myself for last, and I am going to allow the other authors, I'm going to let them introduce themselves. We're just going to start your name, a little, whatever you want to share about yourself and your books, and introduce yourself, and then we're going to come back around and do some more in depth on how we got started, our journey, and what, you know, our challenges, the victories, the challenges. Today we're pulling back the curtain, and whatever you want to ask us, feel free to add some, if you have questions at the end of this. We're just going to be the hour. So at the end, we'll try and get to as many questions as we can. So feel free to leave questions whenever you can, whatever pops in your mind. And we'll start with author Seyna, who I just met this year, but she is like my other sister. I have two sisters, now I have three. And I was, as many people know, a long time ago, I wrote one book and I stopped. And Seyna was the one who just took me by the hand and said, you're gonna write another book. Do it now. And I've been just so grateful because she's just, and Layla as well, been just a wealth of resources. So Seyna, introduce yourself.
Assalamu alaikum. So as you can hear, I'm not a Native American. I'm from West Africa. I'm from Senegal, and I was born in Ivory Coast. I grew up in West Africa, lived in Europe for a while, and I've been living in the US for going on 12 years now, alhamdulillah. In sunny California, love it here. We live in a small town by the beach. It's really nice and relaxing, but I'm also a busy mom. I have 2 young children, 3 step girls, and a husband. So, you know, all that keeps you very busy, alhamdulillah. And the day job. So the writing, although it's been a lifelong, you know, dream and just a call, it's always been hard to really make time for it or to schedule my life to have it fit in. So alhamdulillah, for the last couple of years, I've been able to push myself, and alhamdulillah, to get some positive feedback, and it's very encouraging. So that's my journey so far in a nutshell as a Muslim author.
Okay, and there's more to her story. We'll get to it, but next we're going to pass the mic to Layla Abdullah-Poulos.
Layla Abdullah-Poulos, pen name Lyndell Williams. I am a literary critic and romance author and freelance writer. So words are my game. And I've been an author now I had my first published work in 2018, and I enjoy growing readership. And I also enjoy networking with other Muslim authors, and especially other Black Muslim authors. I've organized a number of venues and events and a conference, the Black Muslim Authors Conference, so that we could come together and talk about our craft and our experiences. So it's always a blast.
Okay. And Nasheed, please introduce yourself. I was not aware of this author, but I was able to join one of the conferences that they had, Black Muslim Authors. And by the way, Black Muslim Authors has a book, Black Muslim Author Reads. I'm not sure if I have the
Muslim
right.
Reads.
Black Muslim Reads, which is an anthology, if I'm not mistaken, of books written by Black Muslim authors that we should probably put the link up to that. But that's how I was introduced to Nasheed in one of the conferences, and he was just a guest that you could not forget. So I said, we got to get him on our. So go ahead, brother, and introduce yourself.
I'm Nasheed Jaxson. Been writing since, I don't know, the 90s. I started out with spoken word poetry, performing spoken word poetry. Actually, I toured with spoken word poetry. I stopped, that slowed down a little. But I still had the love for writing. A friend of mine was like, yo, I got an idea for a movie. He ran this idea over me, and I started writing this movie. So I wrote him a script. I wrote a movie script, and we had somebody look at it. They loved the script, but nothing ever happened. But I still had the love for writing, and I started writing poetry. I wrote my first novel, Her Justice, and in 2014. It has, alhamdulillah, has nothing but great reviews from it, and that started my writing career. But like the sister said, with life in the way, it's hard to get down to this. Writing is still my love. Oh, and I'm sitting, you see the flowers and stuff. I'm sitting in my wife, call it a crafting room. I got glitter all over me right now.
I love it.
Love the writ behind you.
It's the creativity. It's creativity.
Hey, mashallah.
You see glitter on my hand? You see that? There's everywhere.
Okay, don't even try it, brother, because you the same one during one panel session, you put a rose in your mouth.
Because I'm a romance writer. I'm a romance writer, that's why.
Okay, so let me ask you, because we're all, am I on mute?
No, you're not.
Oh, okay. Well, let me ask you, because we do all write romance. And so I'll start with you, Nasheed. You can kick it off. Why, as a Muslim and as an author, did you choose to write romance? How would you respond to that?
Layla, you want to answer this?
She asked you that question.
I do, because I'm curious I'm curious as a Muslim and as a man, what drove you to write romance?
The reason why he's listening to me is because he wrote a book. He wrote a book, and I read the book, and I fell in love with the book. And I said, it's a romance, though, right?
Right. See, because so my first book, Her Justice, it was a book for me. Like it was more suspense, like crime, suspense. That's what I was shooting for. But once
and I'm gonna stop you. Shout out your titles. Everybody talking about your books. We want to know these titles. So go ahead. Tell us the title and keep going.
Right. When I wrote her Justice, when Layla got a hold of the book, she read it, she was like, this is a romance. This is, and I mean, for me, okay, this is how I see writing. Even in all movies, it's always a love story. The Matrix, 300. I mean, we got all the action, but it's always a love story. There's always a love interest, behind it. And so I guess that's my view of writing. Like, it has to be. You have to get a person emotionally involved in the story, other than crime. I mean, regardless of the hardest dude, he can be the hardest thug in the world. He still has a soft spot for his mother. He still has a soft spot for his daughter. There's a love story somewhere. You know what I'm saying? It's always a love story. So I guess that's how I write my books. Even though there's crime in it, there's action. I guess, but the overall message in it is love. So I guess that's why I decided to write it. Because thugs need love too.
Thugs need love too. Okay. And Layla, you're giving him a hard time. So tell us, what get you started in romance genre? Why romance?
Okay. Well, first of all, I've been a romance reader since before I was supposed to be.
Same.
like most of us, in our teens. And I actually studied it for my master's degree. My master's thesis centers Black Muslim romance because it is actually a foundational genre where Black Muslim authors are actually setting up they're the pioneers in romance, in Black, that tie together the faith and love and intimacy. It's been Black Muslim authors who have been at the forefront of writing those romances. And so then I decided that I wanted to write a romance myself. And because I've been interviewing all these romance authors, doing all these surveys and IRB studies and everything. And then I decided to heed Toni Morrison's advice. If you don't find a book that you want to read, then write it. So I decided to write them.
Okay. And Seyna, tell us about your journey to romance.
I think it's just my natural inclination for the stories that speak to me and that are some kind of, like we all have our comfort food. These are the stories I navigate towards when I need a pick me up or just to relax after a long day. So I've always, I read a broad variety of things. I'm a reader for sure, even before being a writer, even more than being a writer. But there's this, kind of intellectual look down on the romance genre. It's getting better, but it's still very much a reality. And I've always felt like it was a necessary and untrue that this is not an important genre. It's for the young girls, for busy moms, for single women. It's something that's important. It feeds the imagination. It gives you some level of comfort. So when I first wrote a story that was perceived positively, and the few people who read it told me, "Oh, this is nice. It helped me escape after a long day," or something of that kind. And it felt good, and I felt like if I could give what I'd been getting from the romance novels, I'd be just, truly blessed to use that gift. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. And I love what you said about comfort food, because I definitely understand that. You read a good romance novel, even if you see something in a movie and then you just like, ah, and for a minute, you get that pick me up. And for myself, I remember, like Layla, reading these books, and you and I, Zainab, has said it too, probably too young to read these books as young teens. And I would read these books, and in those days, the romance novels, even on every cover, the guy looked like Fabio with his long blonde hair, and the woman, she had her long blonde hair, and the description, and I was like, where are us? Where us as where are we as African Americans, and where are we as definitely not as Muslims? So how my question is going to be, how did your Islam influence your writing style? Like for myself, there are certain things that I put on myself as a Muslim writer, that as a Muslim author, and I have to be honest, I write under two different pen names. So I have one that's geared towards a Muslim audience specifically, and then another pen name that's for a more contemporary audience. But I do that because I really want to write stories for our girls, for our teens, for our youth, for our women, because romance gives you hope, I think. And I'm like, I would like for people in our religion, in our culture, whatever, to see that, oh yes, it's a beautiful story, and that we can have these beautiful stories too. But every author is different. So how whoever wants to just jump in, how would you respond to that? How your Islam, influences
before I
your
answer
writing?
I want to point something out, and I want to jump off what Seyna said about the genre itself. And it's a very underestimated genre. And I think that one of the things that people do not recognize is that romance authors, people who can write really good romances for readers who want that centering of the way people fall in love and stay in love and negotiate intimately, they're more talented than a lot of writers out there, because it is a very hard thing. And this is the reason why, because a good romance author can write a good romance and add other elements of other genres in it. So they can write a good romance, paranormal, with paranormal, sci-fi, fantasy, crime, suspense, mystery. There's even horror romances out there, but not the reverse can be said of writers in other genres. So you may be able to write a good mystery, but not a good romance. But a good romance writer may be able to write a good romance mystery and meld the two together. So I think that it's definitely a very underestimated genre. And the talent of the writers of really good romances are underestimated as well. I mean, they can write Stephen King and John Grisham under the table. So that's one thing. As far as being a Muslim romance author, I write under one pen name, and I write Muslim and non-Muslim centered romances. And that's because I definitely wanted to see those intersections of faith and race together, and also so that Muslim women could see themselves, Muslim men could see themselves, and the broader society could see how intricate and diverse and multifaceted it is, because love and romance can be very culturally specific. So when you're talking about writing as a Muslim, you're talking about writing very culturally specific things, but in a way that everyone can connect to. And so that's what I wanted to do. So that's what I decided to do. So I enjoy a large readership of Muslims and non-Muslims. And I also enjoy people who I normally don't read romance, but I read your book and I loved it. So I really wanted to show those connections across social intersections of how it could be unique, the way that we fall in love, stay in love, and connect and network and have these sensual dialogues, but also in ways that they're the same. And so I do have the pleasure of having a lot of non-Muslim readers who reach out to me and say, well, I learned a lot about the faith, but I also learned, I really gravitated towards this character because there were some commonalities that they saw. And so that's the way that I write.
And Layla, I'm glad you mentioned that. And I'll pose this question to the other two. Do you feel in any way that your books are a form of dawah, that it opens someone's mind who may not be familiar with Islam and gives them I'll let you answer. I don't want to answer the question with my question.
Well, that's why I write. that's one of the reasons I write, to invite those who aren't Muslim into the home of a Muslim, into the life of a Muslim, to show them, hey, we go through the same stuff that you go through. These love issues we got, you know what I mean? Worrying about my wife, worried about my kids. We have the same issue. That's one of the reasons I write. So it's Dawah is one of my main motivations. Because in the end, I mean, when I'm gone, when all are asking me about my writing, I want it to be of a benefit for me. You know what I'm saying? Not just I want to entertain, of course, but I want it to be of a benefit, because I get those same non-Muslims. Y'all believe in Adam and Eve? Like, I didn't know. They don't we believe in Adam and Eve. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, to give Dawah and inform people that our lives as Muslims are the same, and also to the things that we do.
Okay, so Seyna, do you agree that it's some form of Dawah? And my question to you would be, if so, how do you balance telling a good story and presenting the Islam favorably without being preachy? Because I know I have a friend who she's interested in writing, and when she presented the story for me to read, as soon as I critiqued it, I was like, no, this is not a romance, this is a sermon, and this is not gonna fly. So how do you balance, you want to present the religion favorably and then without being preachy?
Personally, I wouldn't go as far as present my writing as a form of Dawah. I believe, and I think it's more about Islam is very misrepresented and unknown. And in my Muslim romances or a few short stories that I've had in the past, I believe I've tried showing a more realistic view, a more, as Brother Nasheed was saying, this is who we are. We're the same. We're not all, I won't mention anything negative. And if that just helps kind of close a gap, build a bridge, and just give a more just true vision of who we are and what we represent, what we stand for, and how we live, how we love, how we fight, anything as same human beings. That's more what I think is showing in my books. And inshallah, if it's ever an invitation for someone, to talk to an imam or to open a Quran, I'll be just so truly blessed and honored. But the way I think I presented it in my books, it's really much, I'm happy that I wrote, for instance, my Muslim romance after I had started writing a few books, because the romance portion was already ingrained, and this is the main theme of the story. But these characters are practicing young Muslims, so I want that to be very inherent to the story as well. And it was a balancing act between using all the Arabic of mashallah, alhamdulillah, assalamu alaikum, which is who we are and how we speak, and at the same time sometimes a little mention of the Quran or a hadith, and that's also part of our lives and how we communicate. So it's not easy, and what you mentioned of making it a sermon is definitely a risk. Yeah.
Okay, and you brought up a very good point that I know Layla has strong feelings about, so I'm gonna let her address, because when we have when we write, and I'm writing for a general, I want to, my market is my Muslim audience, but I'm writing for the whole world. So when I write my story and then I'm putting in mashallah, alhamdulillah, jazakallah khair, and I'm trying to flavor these words that are part of our cultural, identity, do I translate? Oh, this came up one time with Layla. She just answered that question. Layla, should we translate these things?
No. Absolutely. Well, first of all, let's look at the balancing act, because I've written quite a few Muslim-centered romances. And I think that oftentimes because Muslims have a tendency to erroneously compartmentalize the faith in a very Christian way, as opposed to seeing it as a deen, as a way of life, that it starts to become awkward when you're talking about those things that in general in society may be considered uncomfortable, but definitely in Muslim society where the conversations about it is stunted, which is romance, love, and sex. So it becomes very, very difficult. So you may end up sounding preachy and everything like that. And there's room for that. There is evangelical type of romances, and there are Muslim writers. I think in my research, the majority of Muslim romance writers are people who accidentally fell into romance, and it is very evangelical in the sense that it is very much centered on preaching about the faith, as opposed to the romance, which is supposed to be at the center, and the fact that these people are Muslim, and the way that they navigate their progression into love and their overall environment and the societies that they're in is very much based in their Muslim identity. So I think that becomes that is one issue. But as far as translation, listen, Muslims have been in the United States since before it was the United States, okay, with enslaved Black Muslims. Okay, with the Black Muslim movement in the 1940s and 50s, we've had Islam become a bona fide American religion through Black Muslims. Okay, in cities like Philadelphia, New York, Atlanta,
Chicago.
Chicago. Oh, Chicago, definitely. Okay. Michigan. All right. Los Angeles. Okay. If you don't know, Assalamu alaikum, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, get real. There's no way in the world you don't know what those phrases are in the United States unless you are a part of an extremely stunted cultural group. Okay. So for the vast majority of Americans, the very most basic and common Muslim phrases, a lot of them are familiar with. They may say it wrong, but a lot of them are familiar with it. So I don't think that there's a need for a translation when it comes to that. All right. When you're talking about the work itself and you're centering Muslims, you may hit a little bit of a bump when it comes to those lesser known phrases. And I've hit that bump. I've hit that bump with the lesser known phrases. And so you just have to know going in as an author that you will have readers who don't mind, as long as you provide a glossary, but you will have readers who do mind. Okay. And you may see it in your star rating. I've had very few, just like 2 or 3. There's one that was just like, I don't want to have to keep on going back to the glossary to look up the words. Okay. But juxtapose that against the Muslim, reader who, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, Ramadan, Jazakallah, all of that stuff, that's a part of our daily lingo. It's something that we say every single day because it is a deen, because everything that we do is in connection with the relationship with our Creator. They see that now. They see that, and they see it, and they see it enmeshed in things that is normally compartmentalized away from, which is love and romance and sex. So you definitely have to play that balance act. But no, don't translate for anybody. Look it up. Provide a glossary. Let them look it up.
Right.
And I can tell you one thing: the readers that put in that decide to do that, and they're like, "Oh, I really like this book. I'm gonna read the next book. And they read the next book, and they those words they know those words. So it's just like your loyal readers will become accustomed to those words. And I have a ton of non-Muslim loyal readers. They never mention the fact that I use those words in my books. It doesn't bother them.
You have to get involved, more involved into the story. Like the story is what's important. Like get them involved in the story where they want to learn the words. And I think I balance it. I balance it with non-Muslim characters also. So it's not, you're not reading, the Islamic terms the whole book, because I have chapters with non-Muslims. So you're understanding where they're coming from. But when I'm dealing with the Muslim characters, I'm you're following them through a story. Like I want you involved in the story more than what they're saying. Does that make sense? Yeah. I want you involved in the story more than what they're saying. You're trying to get to where they want to go. Like it's a balancing act. It's a real balancing act to make that happen.
Okay, so we have a couple of questions, and before I go to the first question, since this one was directly on the topic and anyone can answer, it says, does that awareness of Muslim language go for Black people, or is that for non-Black folks too? So do you think that awareness is something that's more centered in our community as African Americans, or across the board? Anyone can answer.
They know who Allah is. You can say Allah. You don't have to say God. They know who Allah is. Most people know who Allah is.
I think that because there is, basically, like almost every Black person has a Muslim cousin in America. Right? You have Muslim cousin, Muslim boyfriend, Muslim girlfriend, just saying. And there is more of, because of the Black Muslim movement and because of the mass conversion or reversion, whatever term you want to use, I don't want to insult anyone, of Muslims, and because Black Muslims have grounded so much of the faith. I mean, we were responsible for fairer treatment of inmates, that people who are incarcerated. We've been fundamental in the Black Lives Matter movement as well. We're there. These are our communities. These are our societies. These are our families. So yeah, they may have, it may be more grounded in Black communities, but that doesn't mean that it is not known in these enclaves of Muslimness. So you can't live in Southern New York and not know what these phrases are, unless, again, you're a part of this really isolated society and culture, and you're not going to read my book anyway, so I don't care. But
you don't care.
No, I don't care. It's like I'm not catering to people who do not have the inclination to know more about who I am and about my culture and about the way that I express myself as an author. If you don't want to, that's fine. That's okay. That's perfectly all right. But there are plenty of people who do, and they're the people that who want to read my story, who I want to tell my story to, and especially those people who share some aspect of who I am as an author. Black women, Black Muslim women, Muslims. Like there's like a whole diverse intersection, and they will be willing to do the work. And if they're not, they're not. That's not my problem as an author. But I don't think that that's an excuse. I don't think that's an excuse. I think there are plenty of readers out there. I mentioned all those enclaves of Muslimness, Tampa, Florida. Okay, so this is like Austin, Texas.
Yeah, all in Texas. Okay, so we have another question from the chat, and the sister asks, are there any topics that you steer away from as a Muslim author? And I know for myself, there are definitely some things that I do not write, and I don't. There is a very strong push now, very, very popular in romance subgenre that has to do with homosexuality. I cannot see myself ever writing that. I had a book that was actually supposed to be like a suspense, I don't know how else to put it, that I sent to a couple of people. I wrote the first chapter. It was going to be very different. But one of the character, it was about kind of like the mythology of jinn. It was about that. Ooh. And I backed away from that. I said, no, I'm not going to touch this. I started doing more research and freaked myself out, scared myself, walk around the house.
Them jinn scared you.
Sprinkling holy water and reading the three cools all day long. So I was like, no, I'm not gonna tell this story. So she wants to know, are there topics that you steer away from? For myself, whether it's a Muslim book or a more contemporary fiction, it has to be something or end in something for myself that I feel would not be completely and totally un-Islamic in my view. A couple, they like the examples I gave. So how other authors, how do you, how would you respond?
So for me, like I said, I'm writing to give Dawah, right?
Okay.
And a lot of those things that are happening out in the world is happening to us. It's coming into Islam. So I think we have to deal with it. I just, last year I released a book, Halal Nympho.
Wait, everybody got to hear that clearly. His book was called The Halal Nympho. Okay, go ahead, Nasheed. Tell us about it.
The Halal Nympho. And I think right. It was important to deal with that because, you know, I mean, there's Muslim women that's coming into the deen. I think I love this deen and I want to be Muslim. And they become Muslim and, you know, they have this, I can't even call it a sickness. They have this thing that's keep burning inside of them. You know what I mean? What do they do when they become Muslim? So I wrote the book just to spark conversation, just to put it on, you know, brothers' minds that this is something that could happen. I'm about to start writing that. I'm putting together a book called I Used to Be Gay.
It's called what?
I Used to Be Gay.
I used to be gay. Okay.
I used to be gay. Because, and only because there are, you know, people, hey, I love this religion, but I got this thing in me that, you know, I got this homosexuality in me that I'm trying to deal with, or I dealt with, but now I'm Muslim, and you know what I'm saying? So I think it's a conversation. Some of those things are conversations that have to be had within the deen of Islam, because we have to, as Muslims, be able to deal with those. You know what I'm saying? Once when they're approached, when we come upon them, and also deal with people with compassion that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did. You know what I'm saying? When they become Muslim, we have to deal with them with compassion. So that's one of the things. That's one of the reasons why I really want to start, you know, dealing with a lot of those issues, because we, as who had a Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam who was, you know, he was a mercy to the world. Allah says he's the mercy to the world. And we follow his example. We be merciful to those who say La ilaha illallah.
So we are heading into the last 15 minutes. And I did see your question, Brother Bashir, but I'm going to, before we get to that, I want to ask, do you, specifically, if we could lend a few minutes, because my passion, what I would really love to do is I want to see more Muslim authors. The brother asked, what's the historical, you know, foundation, you know, for Black Muslim authors? But I would like to see more Muslim authors. I think that if we don't start telling our stories, especially as African-American Muslims, somebody else is going to tell these stories. Eventually, these stories are going to be told. We're going to see more movies, we're going to see more books, and they're going to be written not by us if we don't encourage each other to write. And whenever I speak to a group, there's always somebody in the back who wants to write a book, but where do they start? So authors, maybe, and Seyna was the one who really got me going. So Seyna, what would you say to somebody who has these stories? You know, if you're an author, you got 100 stories that pass through your mind. Ooh, that would make a good book. What advice would you give? And I want everyone to comment. How do you get started on this journey?
I know what helped me and pushed me and encouraged me, and I feel like I'm hearing the same thing from you, is to, you know, I want to call it have the courage, but it's kind of putting some weird I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on with the phone. Oh, okay. It seems right.
We hear you clearly. We hear you.
Okay, perfect. It would be putting maybe a grayish or dark light to it. But what helped me is putting the story out there, sharing it with people. I was in this Facebook group of ladies who were we were all reading the same author. We were a fan of the same author, and I wrote this story and asked, hey, who would be willing to read the story, and shared it with them, and a lot of people enjoyed it, and that gave me courage to start writing. So just sharing is already a first step that would let you know where you are in your journey. Are you ready? Are your stories ready? Do you need to work more on the craft? So that's where I would start.
Okay, and Nasheed, they have the story they want to publish. They have a story. Where do they go? It's all in their notebook or on their laptop. Where would you encourage them to do? Should they look into markets? Should they do research? Should they get an agent? What would you encourage them to do?
Man, you can download everything right on Amazon. That's it. Amazon will take care of the book for you. And anytime I hear someone say, yo, I think I got a story I need to write, I always do it, write it. Because just like you said, if we don't tell our story, somebody else will. And what I tell people is you're leaving something. Like after you're gone, this is still going to be there. Leave a legacy. Leave your story here to be told. Leave our story here to be told once you're gone. So that's my encouragement. And I let them know that it's not a hard process. But I would say read more. If you want to write, read more, because you have to find good words. After I put, and that's what for my brothers, man. Like we don't read fiction. Like my Muslim brothers, we get it. We become Muslim and just don't read fiction.
You can tell when they write fiction. You can tell that they don't read fiction, and you can tell that they don't know how to write women.
So I would encourage my brothers, man, to continue, because they watch movies. They watch movies out there, you know what I'm saying? Like, but they don't read fiction. I don't know. They get away from reading fiction. Yeah. So I would encourage them to read more so you can find your voice. Yeah, and it's not a hard process. It's not a hard process.
Okay, and Layla, would you have any advice for an aspiring author?
Well, first and foremost, I have to advise people to really know that and keep in mind that the vast majority of stories that are written are not published. If you have to decide if you want your story written and told or if you want it published, because you're going to have to switch gears when it comes to that. And I have to disagree with Nasheed. That is a very hard process. I mean, Amazon has made it a lot easier, but there are a lot of, you're going to end up having to make a lot of huge decisions. Okay. Am I writing fiction, nonfiction? Am I writing, what genre am I writing in? Get to know your genre. What sells? What do readers expect? So like, for instance, in the romance genre, you better pump out some books. Or do you want to be an author of one book, or do you want to be a professional author? Because if you're going to be a professional author, that's going to require a lot of time, energy, networking, and acquiring of a whole range of skills. Do you want to use a publisher? Do you want to be independent? That's a whole nother set of questions. I think that oftentimes people see what we do, our finished product. They see the author's finished product and they want that. And it's attainable. It is definitely attainable, but it definitely is going to take a lot of work ethic and a lot of decision making. So do you want your story told, or do you want your story published? If you want your story published, you're going to have to become dedicated and committed and feel like you're going to be committed in order to get it out there. And depending on your genre, know that your readers are going to expect more. You're not going to, if you're going to write one romance book, you're not going to become an established romance author. That's not the way romance readers roll. Okay, they want the next book, the next book, the next book. It
Oh my
requires a lot of
God. Oh my
networking.
God.
They're waiting for you. I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for her justice too. That's all I'm saying is I'm still waiting for her justice too. Okay, and you have got to learn how to do it. I mean, if you look at authors like Seyna, okay, who is delivering to her readers because her readers are voracious. They want that book. Like she puts out a whole series, and it's just like I'm always shocked at how fast her readers go burn through those series. I'm like, dang, yeah, they wrote the next one already. So it takes a lot of commitment, and you got to be ready to do it.
Yes, and what I was going to say, Layla, is that we have a question in the chat where someone is saying, do you have any tips on staying focused through completion when writing a series of books? So that's one question. And then also, have you experienced any difference in success rate when writing ebooks as opposed to hard copies? I guess she means a physical book. So I'm going to speak to the second part of that. My books are much more successful as ebooks. Anything I put as an ebook, I also put as a paperback book. And the ebooks far out sell the paperback books. But it also depends on the audience. An older audience, this latest book, The Ideal, did better than I expected as a paperback book, but I know it's because I also published in a lot of advertised and did a lot of things that would attract older readers. So older readers, maybe you might have a little bit more with the hard copy, the physical book, but your ebooks are going to be, they're easier to publish, they're cheaper to publish, so you have a higher profit margin and you're going to sell more ebooks.
But that's in romance. That's in romance. That's
okay. So yeah, I get.
If you're going to write something like fantasy, you better have a tight paperback and you better have a fly cover on that paperback because fantasy writers like paperback, sci-fi writers like paperback. Romance readers read so fast and so much that they want that next book that they tend to gravitate more towards ebooks.
And I was going to say, with your nonfiction, we really didn't get into a lot of nonfiction because we're not big nonfiction writers. But with your nonfiction, people often, especially depending on the topic, they prefer a paperback because they use it oftentimes as a reference. So sometimes with your paperback. So when it said writing in series, I don't know if we're going to get a chance to get through that. But I would just tell you this: when it comes to writing in series, if most of the time when people write a series, they kind of plan it out a little bit. So they kind of have an idea if it's going to have, like in my current book, it's the sister, she has two brothers. So I already kind of have an idea that this book is going to take me through at least 3 books. This series can take me through at least 3 books. And then if if it's successful, then the brother may have a friend or the sister may have a friend. So I may be able to get 5 or 6. If I want to get 20 books out of it, then instead of, so you kind of have to plan ahead. So if I know I want this to be a 20-book series, then I need to maybe, instead of it's focused on this one family, it's focused on the whole masjid, or it's focused on a school or something where there'll be a lot of different characters coming in and out of. We are down to the last 4 minutes. So Aisha is going to close us out. But before we do, I'd like to just go, each author, this is your chance to put in your plug for your latest book and just that last pitch for your latest book and where the readers can find it. Sister Aisha, I believe, put the links up in the chat, but go ahead and tell anything you want to say about what you would like them to look at and consider for purchase.
Okay, my latest book should be this week. This week, my latest book comes out.
Oh.
It's going to be Love Addiction. The name of the book is Love Addiction Poetry Night. It's going to be, you can find it on Amazon, on my author. This book is an advisory, strong language and some sex.
Why are you quiet about it though, brother?
It's my first time writing about it, you know, but it's an advisory on it. So go ahead. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, and Seyna, your latest book?
The Note, that was a Ramadan romance. And I just want to throw something very quick. When we're talking about glossaries of Muslim terms, the reason I like to put them in is I don't want people go Googling and finding a definition that's not what I meant to say. So if you read that book, you'll see there's a little glossary at the beginning, and I say, this is what I meant when I used these terms. And it was important to me to, to put that little note to the readers. But I totally get what Layla and Brother Nasheed was saying. So The Note, it's a very sweet romance about, two kids who used to have a puppy love type of situation, and now they all grow.
Okay. And Layla?
Yeah, first of all, I do put glossaries. I said don't translate. There's a difference. But I have a new series coming up, the Sinner series, and it focuses on 5 Muslim men, okay, who are in organized crime. And so the purpose of this series is to show the realities of having faith and worshiping Allah, but not always doing the right thing. So in the first book, the main character, Baz, is in jail, and he doesn't want to tell his wife that he's in jail. And a whole lot of stuff happens because of that. So it should be it's set for release this month. And you can follow my page, or you can join my LW Romance Addicts for the latest updates and everything like that. But I definitely show the realities of having faith and being human.
Okay, that sounds exciting. Having faith and being human. My latest book is The Ideal, although I am planning to write a follow-up as demanded by these voracious readers to the book. And we started this book, the 3 of us, actually it's 4 of us. One other author is out of South Africa, and she could not join us. Her book was The Chance. So if you get a chance to look up the Ramadan Nights series, and it is written by Saffiyah Ali, Seyna Rytes, and Lyndell Williams,
and BF Queen.
And BF Queen, a lovely, lovely sister. And because of the time difference, and she, like I said, she's in South Africa, she could not join us, but she would have loved to have met all of you guys. So look for her book too. And my book is The Ideal, and it deals with 2 people, and they both kind of they want to get married, but they both kind of have the idea in their mind of what a perfect Muslim husband would look like, what a perfect Muslim wife would look like. And of course, nobody's perfect. And they discover that, they may not be perfect, but they are perfect for each other. That's the tagline. And it's part of the Ramadan Nights series. And if you guys just really beg us, we might do the Ramadan Nights series again. But
we're doing it again. I'll be hitting you up again. We're doing it again. Yeah. Inshallah.
So we thank you so much for joining us today. I really hope somebody is inspired to write. Oh, my books are under the pen name Saffiyah Ali. You all know me as Jameelah, but I write under the pen name of Saffiyah Ali. Of course, my darling daughter Saffiyah and my wonderful son Ali, I put their names together, and I thought that was such a cute idea, and they both hate me for it. They're like, don't use my name. So I write under Saffiyah Ali. And for those of you in the Chicago area, inshallah, if you don't get a chance to pick the books up on Amazon, I am going to try and bring some to Eid, and you can get it from me there, inshallah. So Aisha, you told me to close at 2. It's 2. Did you want to close this out?
They can't say Black people are never on time. Inshallah. So thank you all, panelists. Everybody shout them out that's on. Unmute your microphones. We appreciate you all. We love you all. And may Allah continue to bless you in your works. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.